We're talking about the secret garden and viral antisemitism in 4 mutations. And James is going to eat some oysters. And Elvis is going to warm my lap.
Elvis is going to hang out here with us.
Yeah.
This is the 4th iteration of Elvis. There was Elvis Presley, and there was Elvis. Who
this
came
one
first?
has
Elvis
a lot of energy.
Costello, and then
It's
Elvis
very hard
Stoico,
to
and now here's Elvis Bell. Yeah. Is this his first time on camera?
Well, no, he's been on camera a lot, but he has a hard time not being excited.
He's very excited about oysters
very
right
excited
now. I think more
about
than anything else.
Everything.
Yeah, maybe. Are you?
I
Glad
think
to
he
be
might
in
be
internet
excited
world here.
about this cupcake,
Yeah.
which I got today. It was given to me.
Yeah, he wants
I'm very
to bust
thankful.
a move. So watch out. Be very careful.
So anyway,
Don't run away. I hate the way he's looking in the alley there.
I'll have a hand on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a 2-hand kind of dog, though.
You
this
need
one,
an octopus to keep
yeah.
him under control.
There's a lot of energy inside.
So don't
that
run
little
away,
bundle.
Elvis, buddy. Yeah.
You can have this, Elvis. This is for you, Elvis.
He wants to run
This
away.
cupcake's for you. This is for Elvis.
Yeah,
See? For Elvis.
Nice for Elvis.
So this is good to stay here because you can eat that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. On the back of the box, the first, the second word or whatever, they use virtually, and you know how I don't trust people when they use virtually. So right away I'm reading this and I'm like, should I trust this? Whatever. But
on the anti-Semitism thing?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you, it's funded in part by Dan and Mark Spiller, the Steve Tisch Family Foundation, Daniel and Jane Osh Charitable Trust through the Jewish Communal Fund, Lori Matish Illumination Fund, 1-8 Foundation, Crimson Line Foundation, the Hermine and David Heller Foundation, the Brahmin Philanthropic Fund, Blitzer Family Foundation, the Knapp Family Foundation, Kathy Skarkowski and Faye Sarkowski, Wealth Family Foundation, David and Lori Moore, and there's more, a complete list from PBS, it says.
Yeah.
So,
I want to point out that I don't think the usual suspects, like the Ford Foundation and Carnegie Foundation, aren't there.
They're not here. They didn't fund this. But anyway, I highly recommend you watch this one too. And in fact, I recommend that you watch both the Asian Americans by PBS, that documentary, and this one back to back. Watch them together.
The Asian American
and watch them
one
several times.
first. Yes,
They're
exactly right.
Worth watching. We watched them multiple times.
The Asian one 4 times,
took
right?
Some,
the Semitic
took some
one
notes.
2 times.
So you can do. Synagogue terrorist attack. Starts out there, 11 people killed by a lone gunman, it sounded like. Then we're introduced to Russ Walker, who's running in politics, House District 48. I don't know what that means. And on his business card, he was handing out a business card to people. And the number 1, end the war on drugs. Then no income tax on wages, homestead exemption, repeal the food tax, criminal justice reform, fair trials, stop no-knock searches and police murders. And the interviewer said that Russ sounded like a Democrat after having read that off the card. And it's like, you know what? If the no-knock searches are leading to police murders, maybe that should be stopped. And all of the stuff, it's like, I'm looking at this stuff, like Russ agreed. He's like, he said that's right. He's a Republican. He didn't say this. He's a Republican running on some Democratic themes. That was basically what was said in there. But anyway.
Well, very Democratic.
Yeah.
So most Republicans would think he's the next worst thing to the devil, really, but based on what he was advocating. But
there's a lot of people who actually, whether they're on the left or the right or whatever, they believe in a lot of the same things. And they wouldn't want to realize that a lot of the time.
Oh, there's a lot of drawing of lines and
Yeah.
stuff like that, and so on and so forth. The Democrats, for example, in the South, up until when I was about 14 years old, they traditionally voted for, well, they were, I should say, the right-wingers in the South voted for Democrats.
All right. So, Russ,
Stay there.
then he says that God is a racist because he made racist people, and Russ believes that God prefers white people. Russ says the Jew was created to destroy the white Christian nation.
And there's no, a nation is
I
refers
don't
to
know what that means.
specifically to people who are born to one group, right? They're related to each other. So white there's no white Christian nation. I mean, you've got people that are so-called white who are like Hungarians. Hungarians
So
are
basically,
pretty dark,
Russ
but they're not related.
and people like Russ are trying to take the Christ out of Christian.
There you go. Yeah.
So
is that your own formulation?
That is mine.
That's
I hope
very
it
good.
Catches on because
yeah.
it's important to realize that there's a lot of Christians of a lot of colors and different languages, different cultures, different whatever, but they are Christians around the world. There's so many around the world, and whereas with Judaism, people are born into it. With Catholicism, you're baptized into it, or if you're not baptized, you're not, basically you're not human. So
although strictly speaking, you're not born into it, right?
You're baptized into it. But anyway, and there's a lot of people that believe in that sort of thing, whatever. But with Christianity, Jesus was pretty clear about the fact that he wanted it to be open to everybody. The poorest person, the whoever. Christianity was for a religion for everybody. It wasn't an exclusive club. So anyway, so Russ says that the white society in this country is being destroyed. He means the United States. Rothschild mentioned in this. Bill Clinton is interviewed. There's still a lot of economic stagnation in the system he was talking about. There's a sense of personal powerlessness, not poverty, that makes many people feel like there's nothing they can do to make it better. And I've always felt like I'm a fairly wealthy person. James, when he was introducing me to his family, he introduced me as independently wealthy because I have no, I don't have the same trappings that other people do with wanting to have all sorts of things and going into debt to try to get them and all that. That's never made sense to me. You don't need to have a lot of money in a free and democratic country to actually live a comfortable life. And you don't have to exploit other people to be comfortable. You shouldn't have to in a democratic society. If you're exploiting other people, so that if what you see is, oh, I need to have a lifestyle of $100,000 a year or something to support that lifestyle, and that's the only way I'll be comfortable. Well, there's something, I don't know. I mean, anyway, Donald Trump, nationalist, make America great again. Again was the most important word, since it brings people back to an imagined time when America was great. Each citizen has their own ideas of what that greatness was. And Donald Trump was not alt-right, but was able to appeal to them and many other people. George Soros gave 80% of his wealth to charity.
I should point out before we move from Trump,
Okay.
they were trying to pussyfoot around and say that Trump is an anti-Semite.
Yeah.
Trump has already answered that, and he says, my son-in-law is Jewish.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's Jared Kushner or something like that. If it's Jared Kushner, Kushner was kind of maybe the continuity in terms of determining his policy and stuff like that, at least by time. So I think it's kind of like a red herring to put him in a show like this.
Yeah. No, it is interesting. I am interested to see how Donald Trump was able to get elected, and I think they're right about make America great again. The again was very important, and
who was right about that
on this show?
Analyzing it? Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so George Soros contributing to pluralistic society. And I just wanted to point out that when people are contributing to charities, when they make a lot of money, and it doesn't say a lot to be contributing to charity. If he's making, it doesn't really.
It doesn't mean much to it, right?
No, if somebody's living on next to nothing and they give that next to somebody else, then that means a lot, right? But anyway, questionnaires given out by the government of Hungary with questions that everyone would answer one way. So we see this a lot with a lot of the time in Alberta, the Conservatives will say, well, we need more, what do you call it? Referendums and stuff like that. But the questions are always worded in a way that you're like, I know where I stand on this, but what do I answer to so that it looks like that, It can be difficult, even if you are an educated person, to figure your way through some of those questionnaires. But anyway, this Soros said that Orban, Hungarian government politician, was elected by blaming Soros for planning to flood Europe, and Hungary included, with Muslim refugees. And there's no way...
Re-elected was what he said.
Oh, okay.
I think he was probably going to say he was elected on a platform
and
unemployment right after 2008.
He didn't say how Soros was doing that. How could he have, and why would he have wanted to do that? That doesn't even, this doesn't make sense.
He was saying Orban got elected.
Yes, because he was saying that Soros was planning to flood and how would Soros be doing that? If, it doesn't even, but the people were so eager to latch on to that I got him elected. It says a lot about the people when they're willing to go along with that. And I guess they had a whole bunch of billboard posters and all sorts of things with Soros's face on. Don't let Soros get the last laugh. Billboards with Soros's face smiling, the laughing Jew, right? Xenophobia is higher than even 4 years before, they said. 42% of Hungarians hold one or more anti-Semitic views. Bill Clinton says public hatred and anxiety makes the citizens who feel this more exploitable by politicians. In the UK, Labour Party currently isn't in power.
So before we move on, let's talk a little bit about Soros. One of the scariest things I heard a while back was we're getting a ride from someone from a car dealership, and he started grumbling about Soros. Know that much about Soros, or Soros is probably more closely the correct pronunciation. And I knew he was a Jew, right? I hadn't heard much about him, but I knew he'd be a Jew, and sure enough, he was a Jew from Hungary. So, what was he doing? They were saying, we got to watch, Pauline's right, about what charities people are giving to. They're not necessarily value neutral. example is Bill Gates and his wife, is it? Contributing to the eradication of malaria by eradicating mosquitoes. Right? And that is not a very good project. So Soros would serve as a figurehead for what happened to Hungary in the 90s when it bumped out of the communist system. The people were used to getting handouts, very cherry handouts from the communist government that had been set in place and kept in place by the commies in the Soviet Union. And so some of them would have suffered in the 90s and afterwards when things were free enterprise or whatever. So I suspect Soros was helping to fund that privatization. Dangerous. You know,
so we're
I
not
don't want to
told
set
about
him up
that
as
in
a
here.
devil or anything like that. He's just a figurehead because he's a Jew. Understand, it was a bunch of white Anglo-Saxon Protestants and other people from the United States who were helping to bust this stuff down. The Catholic Church would have been involved. So the other one that's really critical for the last 10 years or so has been plural society. Hungary apparently is one of the, according to studies that I've read, it might be, apparently it has the highest or second highest suicide rate, or used to a generation ago, in the whole world, at least of all the larger countries in the world. It's only maybe about 10 million now. And the people who are doing this study, I believe they were the ones who conjectured that's because the society is so homogeneous. In other words, there are exceptions around the borders and stuff like that, but they tend to be of Hungarian ancestry. In other words, a nation state.
He doesn't like the icing.
And they tend to be all Roman Catholic. And if you start making a pluralistic society out of something like that, I suggest you got to be careful. Because if things start going wrong, people are going to blame the doctor. So, for example, a medicine might be good for a person, but it might not be good to just slam the medicine into a person. And this applies not just to developing a so-called pluralistic society, but privatizing things like that. I think in Hungary there were some bad mistakes made in the last generation, the last 30 years. So the main precipitating factor in the re-election of Orban, who's, let me make it perfectly clear, he's an absolutely awful person, is the letting in of Muslim refugees into Hungary. That's in Hungary specifically, in Europe generally.
No, don't do that.
It's been the problem with Eastern
don't
Europe,
do that.
Hungary for example, is
Now
that
you got him.
Muslims have been colonizing, imperializing people there for hundreds of years. And you cannot let them in just willy-nilly and hope that the people there, they are the natives. You understand? They are the natives. They have a sense of history. And you cannot just willy-nilly let people in. It's just human nature. They're going to understand the history. It was as recently, it's not that long ago, but it's pretty recent, 1683, the Ottoman Turks were turned back from Vienna, which is on the western side of Hungary, northwestern. Vienna, the present-day capital of Austria, from their second siege of that place. And it wasn't until 1700 that the Ottoman Empire started fading away, and it wasn't until it's just not that far southeast of Hungary. It wasn't until almost my dad's lifetime that the Ottoman Turks were kicked out of large parts of southeastern Europe. And, we're talking about Bulgaria and parts of Greece, parts of Macedonia. And the important thing to understand about the Turks is they have no business being in Turkey, much less being still in Europe, in Constantinople, Istanbul, whatever you want to call it. Istanbul now is the biggest city in Europe. There are more people in Constantinople, and almost all of them would be Turkish and Muslim, than there are in all of Hungary. And that's just a few steps down the road. So Soros made a mistake. Many people made this mistake. Open up Europe to refugees. Guess what? Europe is overpopulated and has been for a long time. It shouldn't have to take any refugees in, none whatsoever, particularly people coming via Turkey. Turkey in 1967. I was alive then. I'm an old guy, but I'm not that old. I was 13 years old, had a population of 30 million. Count it, 30 million. What's the population now? If it's not over 80 million, it's pretty close. So how many years has that been? 50 years. It's more than doubled. What's its population going to be like if the same doubling occurs, more than doubling, in the next 50 years? I, thank heavens, won't be around to see it. Turkey's going to be a basket case. Turkey's bigger than Germany in terms of actual physical size, but it's going to be a basket case if it continues. Now, be careful, there's a cat. Okay, so what will the population be if that continues? Over 160 million. Well, that's half the size, perhaps, of the United States. Where's that population going to want to go? Well,
No, don't do that.
there'll be all sorts of places, but their economy will not be doing well. They'll be going to places where the economy will be doing better. You cannot have population increases like that. And believe me, Turkey's not exceptional. Egypt, I don't know what its population was back in 67, but it maybe wasn't much over Turkey's population. It's now over 100 million.
Leave it in the dish.
Check it out. Over 100 million. And it's basically just a river. The rest of it is desert, and you've got some delta. How is it going to support in the next 50 years if this stuff keeps growing at that rate? 200 million people, 2/3 the population of the United States. It doesn't make any sense. The refugees that were coming into Europe, many of them, some of them were coming into Italy via the south from Tunisia, perhaps from Libya and stuff like that. The people that were coming from the east were coming through Turkey. They weren't coming directly from Syria, through Turkey, and Turkey was handing them off. A problem that they were creating by their support of ISIS in Syria, handing them off to the Europeans. The Europeans have no responsibility there. The colonial era is over. The sins of the father should not be, and the parents should not be visited on the children. Have you got that? They should not be visited on the children. Europe is heavily overpopulated. They shouldn't have to take any refugees from anywhere unless they're actually making a real problem and having their corporations hither, thither, and yon, creating a problem. You see, what happened is, with the capitalists coming into places, what really happened? Was there exploitation?
No.
I suppose there was. But the capitalists allowed the huge increases in population and stuff like that. I don't support capitalism or anything like that. But leave Europeans alone. Do not demand of them. Apparently Germany took 1 million refugees in 1 year. And Turkey's passing them on. Turkey has more land space than Germany. It has lots of people from Turkey in Germany already. Some of them, sadly, who've actually declared themselves separatists. They declared a caliphate state before ISIS did in Syria in places like Hamburg. That is an incredible provocation. That's a separatist state with Sharia law and things like that. That is unacceptable. So here's the reaction of a person that I call a Sputnik, a fellow traveler. That's what Sputnik means in Russian. And a fellow traveler for communism and anything that's, like anti-capitalist or whatever. Well, at least Angela Merkel did the right thing. And I'm going, holy smokes. I mean, there are all sorts of things that would be the wrong thing, like wiping those poor refugees out and stuff like that. But that was one of the wrong things, because it was a provocation. She's been lucky to hold on to power. But it's because of things like that, Europe has gone happily right-wing. It's one of the main reasons why Donald Trump, hopefully he'll get dumped today. This is the U.S. election day. One of the main reasons why he got elected. A provocation, letting people in who have no right to be in a place. Muslims have no right. They have conquered and imperialized many, many lands. They've got lots of lands to go and be refugees in. They have no right to be here. If they make applications, if they've got some skills to offer, and most importantly, if they believe in democracy, I believe in letting a certain quota in. And a certain quota of secular people from Europe, Western Europe, white people. A certain quota of people from Africa, black people, shall we say. Certain quota of people from South India, Hindus maybe. Jains. A certain quota of people from Southeast Asia. If they've got some skills, and if, most importantly, if and only if they believe in democracy. Otherwise, there are plenty of other places for most people to go to. When they're being brutalized, for example, if they're being brutalized by ISIS and their Yazidis, a small minority, you have to let them all in. Or if they're from South Sudan or from Darfur, you let them in, you hold them as refugees. When things settle down, you let them go back home. Okay.
Well, I think that, it's important for people to believe in democracy if they want to be a part of a democratic society. I think that one's pretty much a no-brainer. But, I mean, honestly, I would like to...
Believe me, it's not a no-brainer for many Sputniks out there. But go on.
I would like to live in a society where people don't believe in dominance and forced submission of other people. I mean, when you have forced submission of other people, then that's or expected submission. Then there's you really don't believe in the passive person having rights.
So Hinduism, people who believe in Hinduism, strictly speaking, where there's a caste system, and it's almost, the people submit to it. They almost don't. It's almost not enforced. It's not compatible with democracy.